And when you say, what's the matter with you? You should know. We ladies are very fond of that. You should know.
You should know. But and not just say it. Communication is not just saying it and then living.
And it's actually very traumatic over time.
I can't even.
It's toxic.
That. It's very toxic.
It can give you disease.
The house. Any man that says that,
It's likes to be chopping. My baby, we're going to have this tonight.
When we look at misunderstandings, we look at wars, we look at fights, separation.
In some parts of the world, if you go like this, you know, sometimes you hear this religious teaching. When your husband comes back from work, you that have got 2-3 kids, you should go and dress yourself, look sexy, come to the... I'm good.
Yep.
Communication is our topic today.
Communication. What do you mean by, because I know you if I say so, you're a good communicator.
BabaShola.
No, you are. But did you have any training though?
My most basic training is that if you are not understanding what I'm saying, then I haven't communicated. So for me, you know, when you are talking to somebody, you don't know whether they're understanding you. And so for me, I always want to make sure that they understand what I'm trying to say. And so the most basic communication is not the fact that you are speaking, it's the fact that somebody is understanding what you are trying to communicate.
Communication is not just speaking, it's the other party understanding.
That's
basic. My understanding as well.
Yes. And I don't know whether you've also heard that saying that a teacher is not a teacher unless the students understand the teaching.
Yeah.
And so some of us grew up thinking that just because I've spoken, people should just understand. But you have to check whether they've understood you. And so when we talk about in relationship, either you are husband and wife, either you are friends,
or you're dating,
or you are dating, you have to understand that your understanding of different situations is not the same. I'll give you a classic example. Certain action in some parts of the world, if you go like this, body language as well is part of communication, by the way.
Of course,
so,
tone
of voice,
yeah,
or lack of. And so communication eats into different things. Even sometimes it will help you to know whether somebody has other things that is driving their communication. Like if somebody is autistic, for example, it affects their communication. Some people have what we call they don't have social cues, you know. They will just be coming across very cold. And it's not because they're not nice, it's because they're autistic, they're on the autistic spectrum. So they don't have the same social cues that we have. Like I was saying, somebody looking at you like this, in one sense, it might mean they're disapproving of what you're saying. In another sense, it might mean that something is in their eye, that, you know, they've got false eyelashes. I'm just using that as a example. So if we just agree that communication is when the other person understands what you're trying to say.
I agree 100%. I tell my friends, tell my family, you know, members of my family, that my goal when I'm communicating is you have to understand what I'm saying. And again, part of my style is timing.
And that's important when you have the conversation. So the way that we have seen it played out in some relationships is that I know when my husband is upset, because what he's not saying is communicating. What he's not saying is communicating. Like I know when he doesn't approve of something I want to do. I say, oh my baby, I want to do. What do you think? I said, that's not saying anything. That to me, I've learned. And so we can also learn over time, timing, when to talk to each other. Because have you heard that some couples, they can go months or even years living together and communication has broken down completely. They are not even talking to each other.
Is that possible? That's toxic.
Very toxic. That they also have children in that environment.
Oh, wow.
So the children sometimes find themselves being the ones that are trying to get mom and dad to talk.
The partners are communicating via the children. And
that's a proper breakdown.
Yeah, and the children are being communicated. How a relationship should not function.
No, let me tell you, some young people have decided that marriage is not for them because of the way their parents communicated or not.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I used to be like that when I was younger. I said, no, I'm just gonna find myself one nice looking bobo, have my children and be done. I can't be asked. Because I didn't see good modeling of relationship when I was much younger. Even up until my university, when I was at uni, I still had that mindset that I want to be really successful so that I don't need to get married. I have everything I need. And it was, what changed?
What changed? Yeah, that was the question.
That's very good. It was when I drew closer to Christ. And I began to read that this is not how it was meant to be. In the beginning, this was not how it was meant to be. And I had to do a lot of forgiveness of others that I felt did not do well. Because we hold resentment that now plays out in our relationships. Resentment from the past. Those children, some of those children might be very resentful of their parents. That, why can't they sort it out? They're meant to be the adults in this relationship.
I can say the same for parents that have separated and that are divorced.
Of course, I myself, when I was so disappointed that I became a victim, that was how I felt, of something that I said I would never do. Because by the time I got married, I thought I had good understanding of what I wanted. And I said to myself, I'll never divorce. That's the other thing, never say never. And relationships is two people have to be willing to do that communication, so that you don't end up where you don't want to. So there has to be willingness on both parts. So forgiving one another for things that you're not happy with is helpful.
So crucial. So crucial.
And that was what helped me. I had to let go of so many things. I had to allow the love of Christ to fill my heart to have faith in humanity again. Because I'm like, oh, this happened in my family, I don't even want to go there. And you hear a lot of young women now, and maybe young men, no, marriage is not for everyone. But marriage is for making both of you actually deal with some of your excesses, some of these things, because you need to be in a close relationship to see that certain things, you have certain hang-ups. I don't know if you experienced that when you were early in your marriage.
Yeah, and because it didn't happen so well in between maybe your parents, doesn't mean that it will happen to you as well. I mean, me growing up, it was such a fun home. My dad was just full of laughter, full of life. My mom, she did her thing, but I never saw them argue. I never saw them. I mean, yeah, my dad was a socialite. My mom, maybe it was just old school. My mom understood him because they'd known each other.
They were opposites, but there was understanding.
And they'd known each other from whilst they were in secondary school. Traveled together from Nigeria to England. Got married, had me. So my mom knew, as you
understanding.
Said, as you said, excesses. My mom knew my dad's excesses, and she never complained.
Yeah, and those excesses, when we say excesses, is that things that sometimes people break up over.
Oh yeah.
If it's not a matter of principle,
Yeah.
I mean, what's it?
Yeah.
And usually they say that opposites attract. So the very thing that you are attracted to becomes the reason why you don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, for instance, I mean, in those days, you know, my parents, my dad is socialite. He goes to club. We call it club then. You know, you've got different social clubs, and he comes home late. You know, my mom never complained once. Never. She knows that okay. You know, that this man will come home. I mean, we didn't have.
So I take it she's not the jealous type. She didn't think, what's he doing at late? Because that's what woman. What's he doing at so late?
Exactly.
Is he with other women?
No. She was never. And again, it's not even helpful. You know, for you to start sitting, you know, sit down in your corner and start wondering what my husband or what my wife is doing out. No.
It gives you, I mean,
it's not
thoughts,
healthy living.
it's not healthy.
It's not healthy living. So there was understanding.
Yes.
So what we are trying to buttress, or what we are trying to bring out here is that there has to be, you know, you have to be intentional in your communication.
Yes, and it'd be interesting to have your thoughts about some of what we've shared so far. Are you somebody that's constantly, you are worried about where your partner is, what time they're getting home? Because that can be stressful. And you're already in a mood. They'll come back. You are in a mood because they come back late. They didn't tell you this. It puts a strain on the relationship. And some people won't even discuss it.
True.
They will say, and when you say, what's the matter with you? You should know. We ladies are very fond of that. You should know.
You should know.
Is he a mind reader?
True.
It could be the other way around as well. What do you think? You must always be vocal, or at least find a way of expressing your feelings. Actually, I'm not happy that you are out. You came back late. Oh, is that why you are? Then it's a discussion.
A discussion, and not just say it. Communication is not just saying it and then leaving. Communication is saying it and let the other person understand what you are actually trying to get off your chest.
Exactly. And both sides should be willing to listen.
Yeah.
Communication, I've realized, is a skill. Do you see when we put it on our CV?
It is.
Good communication skills. Why do we do that? It's a skill, which means if it's a skill, it's something you can learn to get better at.
Very true.
Because some people, they only give instructions. They don't listen and that again is a very authoritarian way of doing your relationship. I'm the man of the house. I have to talk, you listen, that's it. One-way communication, I call it.
Man of the house. Any man that says that,
it's just what they've seen modeled in their own life.
Of course.
And the children are seen and not heard. That's another area. So when you're in a toxic household, maybe mom and dad are not communicating very well. The children are feeling uncomfortable because they're supposed to be looking up to you. Then they now get together sometimes and say, oh, mom and dad is not relating very well. And it can be very hard. I remember when my husband and I separated. It had such a negative impact.
And the impact.
And the way that it happened with us, you know, I just came back from work one day and my house had been repossessed. In fact, my neighbors called me. When I got there, my house was being repossessed. My son, I called his after school to see. They said his dad has come to take him. So for like 3 days, I was just dazed. And the trauma for the child till this day, my prayer is that it hasn't had a long-term effect on him. Because all of a sudden you're in a situation where you have your mom and dad, you have your house, and all of a sudden all that has just disappeared. I remember feeling like in one day, I lost my house, I lost my husband, and I don't know where my son is. Now, why am I bringing that in the context of communication? Sometimes the reason why people are behaving badly in their relationship is they're still traumatized from what's happened in their own past. So, if you're having communication challenges in your relationship, cast your mind back to how did you see communication modeled when you were growing up?
Very, very important. And at the same time, if there was a little bit of, both yourself and your ex, if you guys were intentional about, you had that firm understanding. And I heard, I've heard so much about your ex and how, he's a good communicator. But being a good communicator outside doesn't necessarily mean that being a good communicator inside. If both of you had communicated, because when we look at misunderstandings, we look at wars, we look at fights, separations, it generally leads down to miscommunication.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And this is why sometimes people can agree to disagree. Okay, we don't want to be together anymore. Yes. Well, it doesn't have to be traumatic like that. If we can almost have a plan of action. Correct. I always admire those couples where they're no longer together. They're still friends.
Yeah.
The kids everybody understands. Yeah. So what we are saying is that sometimes breaking up is not even the issue. It's how you do it.
Honestly.
How you do it.
Honestly.
Why would you be living in the same house with somebody and you don't communicate at all? And you think that's okay?
I think
for years, for months.
Honestly, Yewande, I think that is so deep.
And it's actually very traumatic over time.
I can't even fathom.
It's toxic.
That. It's very toxic.
It can give you disease.
Easily. I'm trying so hard to fathom that, because
it's what I'm saying, BabaShola, that if you look deep down, these couples might have been very loving towards each other, because who gets married if you don't love each other? But you see, when you are very much in love, having a couple living together brings out the worst in you as well. Oh, yeah. Because you are on top of each other all the time. So like we were saying all the time, you are rubbing each other the wrong way. It takes a while to understand each other to the point where, like you were saying with your dad, when your mom said, let the man, I think I've shared on the podcast before that I used to have this expectation that when I arrived, my husband would come and meet me at the door, and vice versa, sometimes you hear this religious teaching. When your husband comes back from work, you that have got 2-3 kids, you should go and dress yourself, look sexy, come to the... Very impractical things. That's not to say, however, one should not be sensitive. Somebody's come back from work, they are tired. You don't want to now just go into them. Oh, take the kids. I've been with them all day,
When my wife goes to work and comes back, and I'm being very honest, I do not expect her to go to the kitchen, and she loves to cook, and bless her, she still finds a way of going to the kitchen to do it. But it's not my expectation. No. Because I've gone out as well. I know how tired I am. She's gone out. She's tired. And this is not a Western thing. No. Okay, I mean, maybe in Nigeria there's Sikira and there's...
No. There's it's not a Western thing. But you see, it's a lack of sensitivity that makes us think both of us have gone to work, but it's only one partner that does. Let's just even start the communication by saying, what do you enjoy doing? What do I enjoy doing in the relationship? Let's start. Yeah. Because it's the person who is best at doing whatever that should be doing it.
Very true.
Because
very
that's
true.
always that.
Very true.
Let's look at it. I know a relationship is not like being at work, but it's similar because you are working together for the long haul, for things to be good for the couple. So, couples out there, relationships out there, don't put undue expectation on how to do your relationship. BabaShola, how you and your wife do your relationship is not how me and my husband,
exactly.
But we have equally loving relationships.
Yes.
You understand?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So don't say, oh, Lagbaja, or Lagbaja means somebody else. Like the Joneses. Can't you see Lagbaja has bought his wife a car? Yeah. What is your own? Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we call it.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
Some people used to say to me, why are you allowing have you seen allowing your husband to cook for you? I said, have you thought about the fact that my husband, like your wife, enjoys cooking? When he comes back from work like yours, it's distressing for him. When stress release for me is when I come back from work, put my legs up. Stress release for my husband is go to the kitchen. He likes to be chopping. My baby, we're going to have this tonight. He'll say, you know the favorite bit that I do? Chopping the salad and the fruits.
And both of you understand.
Yes. And we don't allow other people to stress us on that. So if you have some expectation, communicate it and then talk about why you have those expectations, because that's what builds resentment.
Yeah.
The resentment now is coming. You should know. How should he know? I've told you before, BabaShola, I'm always telling you.
That's not communication.
That's not communication. That means that maybe she or he hasn't heard it.
Yeah.
Remember we said at the beginning that communication is not what you're saying, it's what the person is understanding.
Definitely.
And it's interesting because I find myself saying quite a lot because I've worked on my communication skills. Do you understand what I am saying?
Oh, yes.
Do you hear me say that a lot?
Do I hear you say that a lot? Oh, yes.
And then,
Yes.
depending on, sometimes people won't talk, but their body language, I'll quickly check.
Yes.
Then if I see that their body language, then I'll say it in a different way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to say it in different way. And even on the podcast, you'll notice me, I try not to make assumptions about the fact that people understand what I mean. I say, and by the way, this is what I mean, because it might mean different things to you.
Yes. On that note, we have.
We can't solve your marital problem, but what we're saying is, the thing that is keeping you quiet and not talking, the elephant in the room has to come.
Yes.
And if it means that you end up going your separate ways, it's not the end of the world.
Do it amicably.
Do it amicably.
Yeah.
Get the children
Yeah.
safe, because it's having impact on the next generation. We are not for divorce, so let me be clear about that.
Before they say, oh,
yes, we are not for divorce.
But what we are saying is for either the woman or the man not to use their children as tools or as whatever to get back at.
And sometimes even a temporary separation is necessary.
Oh, yeah,
like if there's the way you guys communicate, some of you, is to get physical. That who's going to hear that? Communication is about talking, and you might need a third party, somebody you both trust, to be a mediator, because I know some people, their communication skill has not got to the level where they can do it without mediation. Mediation is okay. Mediation is having somebody neutral that you both respect. For some people, it's their pastor. But some of these pastors are
the imam. You know?
Yes. Some of the people might not be accessible. So you can go actually to a trained counselor.
Yeah.
But both parties have to be willing.
I passionately believe that the man or the woman, or either of the partners should be intentional. You should recognize that there is a problem in communication, especially if they.
And remember, it's a skill.
It is a skill.
You can even go on a course.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Are we not even talking that?
Yes.
Yes. Counseling skills, communication skills. These are things that you should actually go and do. So on that note.
Excellent. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Don't be afraid. Communication is a skill.
It is.